Greetings programs. In this video we're going to have a look at Sun Microsystems Enterprise E250, and we're going to do a little bit of a teardown, not a complete teardown by any means, but one that should bring us to the necessary points, useful points that would be ideal for those who would wish to upgrade such a system. Right. You see that we've got the original DVD-ROM, and I've already added a floppy diskette drive. We'll get to that soon enough. We've got the ignition keyhole, which is used to turn the system on. So in order to use this, you do need to have the key in order to switch on the microsystem. Down there we've got the SCSI hard disk array. You unlock it, door opens, and it shows you an array of about 6 hard drives. All of the LVD 80-pin variety. Right, if we go back to the other side of the system, and believe me, these are heavy. Ooh. Just push it over a bit. Oh. We have the back of the system. Right, we have not one but 2 power supply units. The idea is that you'd have both of these hooked up to the wall at any one time. So if one of them fails, you can rely on the other one. We have a whole variety of ports. We've got printer interface, keyboard and mouse port. The mouse daisy chains onto the keyboard, and then the keyboard goes in there, much like the iMac G3, where you would use the USB mouse. Plug into the USB keyboard and then plug the keyboard into the system. Right, we've got terminals A and B, so you can hook up 2 terminals to the system. If you ain't got a mouse or keyboard like me, you may want to plug in a Windows laptop. It's a parallel port, and use a terminal emulator like Putty, and you can control the system from there. Twisted pair Ethernet. Not sure what that is. I think it's a kind of network interface, but I'm not familiar with it. High density 68-pin SCSI. Very nice if you want to hook up some external devices. And down here we've got our expansion cards. We'll get to those when we open the system up. Right. To undo this, the first thing we want to do is take the power supply units out. They actually contribute a fair portion to the weight of the system, and the idea is that we want to tilt this machine on its side when we open it. So first things first, take the power supply units out. You see that we have these thumb screws. They do also have a Phillips hole as well, so if they're a bit too tight and they're shredding the skin on your fingers, you can use a Phillips screwdriver to loosen them. When you're ready, give them a yank. They'll come out like that. Yes, I'm doing this single-handedly because I still haven't had much of a chance to arrange a tripod-mounted video system. This one I think is a bit seized up. I do know it's got a bit of rust on it, so glad to have that done, eh? Right, we've got several main screws, right? We have a 6-pointed star here, and then we've got more of these thumb screws. Now what we do, we've got a grey fascia and a purple. We want to take the grey fascia off first, then the purple. So we're going to need one of these type of screwdrivers, like a 6-pointed spline type thing. Now, one thing I should know is that when you get to the end of twisting them, they will feel quite stiff and then they'll click. What it is, there's a spring inside them and that stops them from falling out and you potentially losing the screw to your back plate. So, as I say, don't worry about losing the screws because they actually stay inside the back plate. Right, you need to slide it this way a bit before you can lift it off. And that takes the back plate off. And then we can also take this off as well. And just want to say that these plates are bloody heavy. They really are. You don't want to mess around with these if you're a bit on the wimpy side. I can't believe I'm doing this one-handed. Yeah. And that'll bring us to the internals. So I'm just going to move power supply unit over it because I want to swing it around. I just want to say also, face plate on here is actually broken so it doesn't stay in place. See that the clip's broken off there, it's broken off here too. Right, I'm just gonna turn it. Alright. So we've got two main parts of the internals. We've got the drive side of things. And then we've got the logical side of things. Right, on this side we've got the fan back plate. The idea of this is that you push that back and it will slide out like that. You've also got an electrical cable here, so you want to pull that out, and it's a little bit like an ATX type connector in which you've got a little security latch here which keeps it in place. So that being said, we can take that out. We've got three bloody big fans. Trust me, they are bloody big. They're not like your regular Pentium 4 style ATX or your Cooler Master rifles. No. E250s, they're like Americans. They like to have everything big. Now we've got that out of the way, we've got a SCSI backplane. What we do here, we take this 6-pin connector out, the controller cable out, and our 50-pin SCSI cable can come out too. And then, using a Phillips screwdriver, we can get the front drive caddy out. Now this is obviously a bit cool because this is the way we would want to add another drive, like a DAT tape drive or a CD writer. I'll take into account that those always have to be the 50-pin SCSI variety. Classic Plex writer would be good. When you've got it all done, the screw should just pop out a bit by itself and the whole thing will just slide out. They're beautifully designed. So that's how you do that. The idea is is that you take the caddy out, you put your readers and writers in, and then put the caddy back in, which minimises the amount of cabling you have to mess around with from the inside, so you just don't get your hands all caught up in the internals of the system. So as we can see, we've got a SCSI port spare and one Molex connector spare. That end goes in the back plane that we've just unplugged this from. That's the 6-pin connector from the back plane that we've just connected from. You also get a bow connector. Now, the floppy drive and the cable, I added those myself. They weren't included with this. This only had a DVD drive. That's it. I have got a SCSI Plex writer somewhere, and I want to add that to this, but I won't be doing it in this video because it's in another room. Right. Right, we're going to have a look at the processors. They are ultrasparc 2 processors. I can't remember if they're either 400 or 450 megahertz. But that's how you do that. You just, ideally you want to kind of pull them at the same time. Right, that's your CPU. What's it say? 400 megahertz ultrasparc 2. Yep, that was what was handwritten on there by the previous owner. Assembled in Canada. So yeah. 400 megahertz, eh? Got 2 of those. I think the fastest available might have been either 450 or 500, I think. Not too sure actually. I'm trying to just get this bezier off. There we have it. Got a big heatsink on the main area. Got 2 little heatsinks here. 2 medium heatsinks and 4 very interesting cylindrical heatsinks, which are quite fascinating. You see, that's the little shielding plate. Got these nubs. That's the main catch. And you see we've got those holes there. So we've got these little nubs. And they go on there like that. And there you have it. Just got to get this back into the main array. These are what they call cam locks. That's what they like to call them. And the idea is you don't have to just push it in until it clicks into place, but rather you have to pull these levers down. When you've pulled them in all the way, you know, you've got your processor in. And there you have it. 1 processor, 2 processor. Right, next up we've got the RAM. And we've also got the NVRAM bed. Now I've actually just taken the NVRAM out of this because it's dead. And that's the reason why the system's not booted up, and that's why it's not currently working. But I've ordered a new NVRAM chip, so that's why I'm very keen on doing this video. Right, removal of the RAM is interesting. You've got these little levers here. If you push the lever this way, you can see it's ejecting the second SIM out. Like that. and if you push the lever in the opposite direction, it levers the first SIM out. And the same goes for all the other banks. This system's currently got 2 GB installed. I think you find you can actually upgrade it to a total of 4 megs. 4 GB, sorry, not megs. 4 GB. All these sticks are the 128 megabyte variety, but I'm pretty sure 256 meg sticks do exist. So in theory, you should be able to get about 4 gigs, but I'm afraid those higher sticks are rare. Frankly, I'm not bothered because this machine is just bloody awesome as it is. Now, I haven't actually done any upgrades on it since I bought it, aside from the floppy drive. The RAM is as I received it, the processors are the same as I received this tower, but I did add a graphics card and a sound card because I have the intention to turn this into a graphics workstation as well as a server that I can interface other Windows machines to and possibly create my own render farm. Alright, for the expansion cards, this actually uses ordinary PCI, although I do believe it uses a faster variation of PCI, where you've actually got a longer slot. So, yeah, we're going to get this out. We're going to have a look at the graphics card that I bought for this. Right, this is the graphics card that I bought for this machine, because I definitely want to get this machine running. I definitely want to do something cool with it. Right. We have Chips and Technologies. We've got the word Intense 3D and Wildcat written on it. This board, I think, has a 3D Labs Wildcat chipset with some description on there. And yes, it's nice. I think I paid a good price for it. I paid the price for it as I would pay for a very simple frame buffer. I'm not sure if it's the XVR-500 or if it's the XVR-600, but it's nice. This is the monitor connector you'll find on many Sun microsystems. You can buy a simple adapter that will allow you to connect a 15-pin VGA monitor. Yes. Next up, we have one of those BNC bayonet nut connector. I can't remember what the function of this is, but it was mentioned in the manual. And finally, we have this little connector. And this allows you to add 3D shutter glasses. So you can do virtual reality stimulations, things like that, simulations. So yeah, we've got a nice long metal chassis filler, which makes sure that it fills the entire length of the expansion bay. As you can see, that's the extended time of PCI, so PCI 133 MHz, which is twice the clock speed of your regular PCI, which usually runs at 33 or 66. It's about 66, I think. Right, so we have on the back, we have Intense 3D. Yeah, it's not a Sun Creator workstation. It's actually just simply a miniature version of the 1000 Starfire. But I think with these kind of upgrades, I could make it into a very interesting competitor to the Silicon Graphic workstations of the era. And I certainly do hope I succeed with that. The other addition I made is surprisingly straightforward. Apparently you should be able to use most PCI soundblasters with this, and so this is the card that I added. And I only added this one specifically because it was the one I had at the time. But I've got 2 other very similar models, which I think will also work with this. I thought, yeah, I'll probably want to add some multimedia capabilities to this. So there we have it. We have a Creative Labs CT4740. Very simple, no frills card. We've got a couple of digital and CD inputs. I think it's maybe something a bit like Soundblaster 16 or something like that. I think that might be what it is. We've got the 4 ports and you've got a joystick. Nothing fancy, but if it works with a Sun microsystem, I don't have to go for something that will otherwise only work just simply because it's got a different BIOS. And that's it. Now we're going to have a look at the 2 stock cards. Well, presumably they're stock and they could have been added. But these 2 cards I did receive with the system. I've got 2 different types of a network card, network interface. This first one is an official Sun part. It's provided by Sun Microsystems. Yeah, I think it's from, right, we have Sun Microsystems assembled in Malaysia. Yeah, Sun Microsystems. Yeah, we have a copyright date of 1995. This was probably added for legacy or extra connectivity. Now, this has a 100 base T, which is maybe suggesting that that twisted pair connector on the native motherboard, it might not be compatible with 100 base T, hence why the previous owner had to add one of these, which also comes with another one of those connectors that I know nothing about. Certainly is interesting. So we have that one, and this is the other card. Right, I think this one might be from about 2003. I think it's an optical fibre networking card. We have some Microsystems branding. 1000BSX. We have an RX connector that's gold plated and a TX connector which has a plastic grounding and a gold grounding, so pretty cool, eh? No, it's not gold actually, it's actually translucent yellow, so I think that socket actually illuminates when it's active. We've got link, FDX, TX and RX, so this is sophisticated networking of some description. Yeah, pretty flash. And we can have a bit more of a look inside. As we say, the chips are pretty big in these things. Many of the ICs are about the size of an actual microprocessor, like an LGA775 or even a Socket 7 processor. And then the actual central processing units are like massive cartridges, and I've got really big heat sinks and stuff. Yep. Even the RAM is like big. It's certainly not the size of your PC2. I mean, this is huge. See if we can actually read that. It's so shiny. There we go. USA Sun part. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Getting the RAM back in is just a case of making sure it's even on both sides. You're pushing it in evenly. And just push it in until it makes that clicking sound. That shows you that it's been secured into place. So yeah, RAM upgrading is easy enough. if you're interested about what the NVRAM chip is to be replaced, we've got that here. There's a few videos on YouTube that cover how to either replace it or to repair it using the dremeling method. But basically, it's a block, it's got a load of watch batteries in it. But they're a very specific type of lithium watch batteries. If we take this sticker off and see what kind of part it is. It's MT48T59Y-70 PC1D. Timekeeper RAM, lithium batteries made in Malaysia. We've got a part number here, but if we peel that away, we can see that we've got another number. W0131Y. So yeah, you can buy one on eBay for about 20 Great British pounds sterling, which I'm guessing is probably somewhere between $30 and $40 in US money, but they're not really that common. If you can find a cheaper alternative that will electronically work, I do advise it. The nice thing about these is that replacing them is actually easy because they're keyed in such a way you can't actually insert it the wrong way. No. We do. If we have a look at the bed, we've got some main corners and then we've got some cut corners. I think these are... Sorry, I'm just dropping things. I'm a bit shaky these days. I've not had a good year at all. We've got the edge here, we've got corner, and we've got the cut corner here. You can see the little corner's been cut off, so they've got a smooth edge. Now we can also see that the same also goes for our little timekeeping battery chip. Got a corner here, corner there. Cut corner here, cut corner there. Right, so that goes into the chip bed like that. Just going to remove that sticker. Underneath the bed, we take the chip out and have a look underneath the bed. We've got a little nodule in the corner of this square fascia here. And on this side, we have that little nodule. But rather than it being in the corners, it's on the middle of that side. So it always goes in this way and you can't put it in that way. Likewise, the chip always goes in this way and not that way. Just doesn't go in like that. See? So it is keyed. You can always be confident that when you buy a new chip, it will be easy to replace. You may struggle a bit in pulling the old one out, but I actually would recommend that one uses an Allen key. And then what you do, you get that Allen key there, put your finger underneath and lever it, and that will actually pull it out if you do it right. The Allen key is actually the best tool to remove this. And of course, it goes in that little ROM bank there. So yeah, you can be confident that these are easy enough to replace. And finally, this is not an expansion card, it connects via a ribbon, but it's the remote system control, and I think what this is used for, I'm not sure if it's so that you can control the Sun microsystem via a remote laptop, or if it's actually the other way, that you use the Sun microsystem to remotely control a larger server or terminal or mainframe. I'm not sure, because this is basically a miniature mainframe by itself. So I'm not sure, but it's remote system control. It doesn't actually go in a slot, it just goes in a very specific motherboard connector. And it gives us twisted pair, all 100 base T or 10 base T, and what I might assume would be another serial port, which comes as like a complementary piece to one of these, and also this card that was installed by the previous owner. So yeah, we've got about 3 twisted pair Ethernet ports. I think it's going to be fun to play about with and figure out which one does what. But yeah, the easiest way to get into one of these is to use a Windows laptop. Connect it to terminal A using one of these cables, one of these 9-pin to 25 type cables. Plug the 9-pin end into the laptop, 25-pin into terminal A, this one here. Use putty on your laptop, and as your Sun boots up, you can use that. Like that. That's the easiest way to operate one of these if you don't have the official Sun Microsystems keyboard kit, which uses the proprietary 8-pin connector rather than the USB connectors you will find on the later machines, so you can't really use a USB keyboard mouse. So it's either that, or you learn to use a terminal emulator controlled by a terminal AB. It needs to be mentioned that getting this particular graphic card back into the expansion slot can be a bit tricky because the bayonet connector sometimes really likes to get in the way. That can make it very difficult to get it back in. So the idea is you want to get that in there through first, and then try and slot the expansion filler. I don't know what these are called. Is it support, expansion filler? I don't know, but just need to go in. Makes it very difficult with one hand. Okay, there we go. Unfortunately, it didn't actually go into the nodules. But we do at least have it. You can see that's the general idea. You need to get the bayonet connector in there first, because if you put that in first, the bayonet will refuse to just go in. It's really difficult, you see. Yeah, you see. So yeah, get your bayonet in there first. Try and keep it as level as possible, i.e. keep pushing it so that the bayonet is pushing against the top surface. So you're always like pulling upwards while you're pushing that area downwards. Then eventually you should actually get the dummy plate to actually go in between the two nodules, like that. And I'll just slide the card in place. In you go, me bar. My darling! Little bastard. Oh. It's damaging stuff, I tell ye. You've just got to push the damn thing all the way until it clicks. When it clicks, you'll note that the bracket should be flush against the chassis. And then you can put the damn screw back in. It's a bloody sports workout routine. No? Now that over there is a micro switch. Basically there's this hole on the other side so that when you put the side plate on it keeps the micro switch switched down. That tells the computer that it can boot. But if you try and turn the computer on without the side plate, it will beep and refuse to boot up because the micro switch is not pressed down because there's no side cover. So that's what that is, and that connects onto the main logic via that cable, as you can see. So there we have it. You can see the actual switch there. Actually, I might be able to there we go. That's the security switch. It prevents the system from booting without the side plate installed. So yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? Right, let's get that thing back into place. So yeah, we've got that. Slide that in. And as you know, we use that to fix it into place. And then we need to make sure that we get these back into the SCSI backplane as they should be. So this red cable is the 50-pin SCSI, which is used for your DVD-ROM, and also maybe your Plex rotor or your DAT tape drive or whatever SCSI device you fancy. You could even put in a SCSI zip drive if you're filthy rich. Stick those in. And then we've got this lovely 6-pin, and that's used to power up all the Molex and Bird connectors from the SCSI backplane. And that'll click into place like that. How's that for awesome? And I believe that's that. We've got all expansions in, got our processors in, got our RAM. We haven't messed about with the cabling all that much. The power logic is all done. You can see that we have those big white connectors there. We've got 2 of those. Those are what connect those power supply units in there, the ones that we pulled out the chassis at the start of the video. Those are what those go to. You can see it's a bit grimy down here. Right, this silver cable is the SCSI connector, which connects our SCSI backplane, i.e. our disk array, and these to the motherboard. So there's a motherboard which goes into SCSI backplane. As we can see, we've got another one of those 6-pin connectors going into the SCSI backplane, which again go into the main logic board. There's the 6-pin connector here where I'm pointing at. So we've got a lot of very thick power cables. Yeah, we've got all those cables. But that's really all you need to know about the power logic. I certainly do suggest that you don't unplug any of those until you know everything. As I say, you can find the manuals for this online. This cable goes to the fan plane. Now this that thing that we pulled out earlier, which we're going to stick back in here. sure that's in there, latches over it, securing it in place. Also make sure that we've got a power cable back in place from where we unplugged it earlier. Right, and then we've got my panel to go back on. And like that. Push it in so it clicks into place. And if it's right in, you should have no problems in getting the thumb screws to go back as they were. Which it appears that we don't have any trouble in doing so. Plastic fascia. Oh, this is fun. Absolutely fun, I tell ya. It's just broken the side there. But yeah, if you got it on right, the grooves will be in line with all the purple plastic, this plastic, and all that, and you can get that star-shaped screw to go back in there. And there we have that. Let's move that screwdriver back out of the way. Wow, I just lifted that with one arm. Whoa. There we have it. We've basically got some microsystem reassembled. Those bastards, you just slide those back in. Now we can see that we've got a cut corner here, the other corners are regular. So that makes it very obvious when you reinstall a power supply unit. You know, these really are heavy, I'm not complaining. These things are big. Big industrial power supply units. And aside from the cut corner rule, another rule is power supply unit connectors always go on top, not the bottom. They're always orientated towards the top edge of the system, of the entire system. And sometimes you just have to really push to get these things back in. And when you've got some rust on it can make it a bit more stubborn than it ought to be. Oh, I think we got it. Come on. Yeah, I think there. That's how you do it. My right hand's stronger. So, to get them in, to go into place, you have to give them a mighty good slam. And then that way you can make sure that their front plates are flush against the computer's chassis. You do have to be a little bit rough with these things because it's quite common for these to get a bit seized up. because it's normally used these in an industrial environment. But aside from that, they'll be alright. And that's all there is really. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I look forward to making another video again at some point. See what other treasures I've got. If my NVRAM replacement arrives this week, I'm going to install that, and if it works, I will do another video on this if the NVRAM works as promised. And then we can definitely have a look at things like terminal emulation, or connecting this to a render farm, or other interesting things. We could even do installing Solaris, things like that. Yep. Cool and interesting, cool and unusual things. So yeah, backplane over there. I'll pack my money box. Pretty cool. If you put a coin in it, it makes the classic Pac-Man sound. Yes, I do have the ignition key. I do have it somewhere, not sure where, but I do have it. Come to think of it, I think I've got it on my pin board. There we go, it's the ignition key. Kept it on a bright red bit of string so I won't forget where it is. Yep, that's just the front plate, went flying, because like I said, it's broken. Clips are broken, it doesn't stay in place. With this thing, we can open up the disk drive array. We can have a look at the hard drive caddies. And there we have it. We've got 3 of 6 bays filled. They're numbered as 1 to 5. And what you do, press that and it makes a lever come out. Pull the lever down and it brings the caddy forwards. And we have it. Seagate Cheetah. I think it's either an 18 or 36 gigabytes. They are usually the typical capacity sizes. I've got a couple of 300 gig drives. And if they will electronically work and that capacity is seen, I might give a bit of an upgrade to those, which would be cool. If 300 gig drives did work, you could theoretically have 1.8 terabytes in here, which is quite good for a 1998 design, I must say. But yeah, I think we've got Cheetah, we've got another Cheetah, and another Cheetah. Yeah, I think it will work with medalists as well. As we can see, it uses the LVD 80-pin SCSI connector, which is generally the standard for backplane type server systems. Unlike the 68-pin and the 50 pins, which do seem to require something a little bit more unusual, in which you've got separate connectors for the power and the SCSI interfaces. And there you go, that's just it, yeah. Goes in like that, click it like that. Close the door, lock the key. There you have it. Sun Enterprise 250 server. I would say the same key is also used to start the system. So it's a bit like starting up a plane or a car. No, it's a bit like that when you decide to power on. But of course, this fascia doesn't fit into place because unfortunately the clips are broken. Yep. one of those clips would have went into there. That's all I can say about that. But you can use the system without that. See, we can put into self-test mode, self-repair mode, or standard boot up. So yeah, and I think there's also another. What's that? We've got the info here. We've got off, on, self-test. No, I think that's self-test. I don't know actually. I know that's off, on. One of them is a self-test, and I think it automatically goes into repair mode. That, I'm not sure if that's just server mode, but it will boot up. It administrates itself so that no terminal or keyboard input can be accepted. I think that's what that is. It does all the maintenance itself. And if you try and interact with it, it won't accept anything. That's the self-test. Turn on, turn off. So yeah, that's off, on, self-test, dummy mode. So we're just going to put it in all the way like that, and that should be the off, on, off. There we have it. Thank you very much for watching.